As long as time is stopped, everyone can do whatever they want. Within this forbidden stretch of time, there are no laws to hold anyone back. The evil in human nature is magnified without limit. And this family happens to possess a tool that can stop time. But not only are they far from rich, they are actually struggling on the edge of poverty. The grandfather loves drinking more than anything. The father has been laid off and lost his job. Yuri has just gone through 19 failed job interviews. And her brother stays shut inside the house every single day. One day, while her brother was on his way to pick up his nephew, he was suddenly kidnapped by a group of robbers. Her brother was completely unable to fight back. The robbers called and demanded a ransom of 5 million. The father hurriedly prepared the money. But right at that moment, the grandfather stopped the father and daughter. He cut open his palm and dripped his blood onto the stone. The instant the blood entered the stone, a dark red knot rapidly spread open. 3 strange jellyfish-like creatures flew through the air. The moment the jellyfish entered their bodies, time seemed to stop moving. Everything in the world also froze in place. They had entered a world called stasis. In other words, a world where everything was still. Except for the 3 of them, no one else could move. They arrived at the place the kidnappers had mentioned. The frozen kidnappers all looked unbearably arrogant. They had tortured her brother terribly. Filled with hatred, Yuri walked forward. A shadowy figure actually appeared behind her. The grandfather hurriedly called out to his granddaughter and told her to save them first. Everything else could be dealt with later. Yuri wiped away her nephew's tears, then picked him up in her arms. Just as they were about to reach the door, a group of bad guys came over. They saw that there were actually people who could still move. Caught completely off guard, the father was knocked down with a stick. Yuri was also knocked unconscious with a blow. One of the men stepped forward, ready to take Yuri's life. At that critical moment, the grandfather stabbed a piece of broken glass into the man's foot and saved Yuri. Another man beside them raised a steel pipe and smashed it down. But the grandfather and granddaughter vanished into thin air. The 2 of them teleported outside the house. Their accomplices outside attacked from both sides. The grandfather and Yuri teleported again. This time, they actually fell from midair. Just then, the man took the nephew hostage, forcing the grandfather and granddaughter not to move again. But in the next second, a massive creature appeared behind the man. Yuri recognized it as the shadowy figure from earlier, and it was the administrator of stasis. In this world where time had stopped, as long as you held even the slightest evil thought toward a frozen human, the administrator would appear immediately. It grabbed the man's head in one hand and crushed it to pieces. Yuri was terrified by what she saw. She even felt sick and threw up. After the punishment was complete, the administrator turned into powder and disappeared. The grandfather hurriedly took Yuri and teleported away for their lives. Before Yuri could even process what had happened, the grandfather told her that when someone tried to break the rules of stasis, the administrator would appear. The grandfather and granddaughter did not know why those people could move in stasis. But one thing was certain. Their target was Yuri's family. And the grandfather could not teleport together with people who were frozen. They had originally come here to rescue people, but the situation had not improved at all. Suddenly, the grandfather and granddaughter remembered that the father had also come with them to rescue the others. He had already been subdued by the bad guys. From what had just happened, they could tell that the administrator only protected people who were frozen, so the father might be killed. The grandfather calmly analyzed the situation. If they wanted to escape this group of bad guys, the most effective way was to cast the spell again. This world was like a single frame from a strip of film. They had invaded this slice of the world and could move freely within it. But even if they were off by 1/1000th of a second, the stasis they entered should be completely different. So they had to undo the spell and leave this place first, then immediately cast it again. That way, they could enter stasis at a different moment. Then they could rescue her brother and nephew in a stasis without the bad guys. But if they did that, the father would be left behind in this world. So the grandfather and granddaughter split up. Yuri would go home, get the stone, undo the spell, and save her brother and nephew. The grandfather would use teleportation to save the father. But what they did not know was that there was now one more person in stasis. Mysterious threads slowly emerged from the corpse crushed by the administrator. They kept gathering together and formed a jellyfish. It entered her brother's body. And this change went unnoticed by everyone else there. In this world, one man had fulfilled his dream. He was openly reading books in a convenience store. But the man beside him was still mocking him. Time had already stopped. So why was he still reading books? The man then walked over to a woman and directly lifted her skirt. Then, in front of everyone, he did something indecent. Everyone started laughing. Yuri had just reached the front of her house when she was attacked by the bad guys lying in ambush. Alone, she could not fight so many people. She was pinned tightly beneath them. The bad guys wanted to make Yuri's family look like they had gone missing, so they could not leave any blood behind.